Princess Diana know that King Charles would be the Antichrist? The answer will astound you. Craig Bong has uncovered so many astounding signs that point to King Charles being the Antichrist. But before we get to Princess Diana and what you uncovered 30 years ago, let's start with some amazing signs. Something hit me, Craig, about this particular prophecy. That in the book of Revelation, it says that the Antichrist would have power over 1/4 of the earth. So when people say, oh, Trump is the Antichrist, this other person is the Antichrist, but King Charles seems to be the only one that would fit the bill. What do you say?
Well, the Commonwealth is, according to a Google search, it will say it's 56 nations that make up the Commonwealth. Some will say 52 nations, some will say 54 nations. So, but as of, I think 2020, it was 56 nations. So that's over 1/4 of the world's countries.
Right. So there's
190. I believe there's 193 approximately nations in the earth.
Yeah, that really hit me the other day when I was looking at that and looking at your research, and it's like, wait a minute, no one can say that, these other people that they try to name being the Antichrist, only King Charles would have that power over that
it can only be the leader of the Commonwealth, because only one leader in the whole world has power over 1/4 of the world's population.
Okay, now another prophecy that you found that would point to King Charles is regarding Daniel 9:27, he shall confirm a covenant with many. Okay, explain.
Well, this one's building, and it has been building since 1992 at the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit, where Prince Charles then overlooked the signing of the Agenda 21, and there was 156 signatories on that signing. If we go back in history, and we saw that President Bush at that time said we're bringing in a new world order, and it had to do with that Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit. In 2009, at the Copenhagen COP15, Prince Charles at that time said, we have 7 years to implement a deal. I'm paraphrasing what he said. And then he reinforced that before the UN enforced the Paris Climate Agreement on November 4th, 2016. So you have a 7-year period that he announced back between 2009 and 2016.
Okay, now is there something also that's going to happen at the end of this year that is also?
Yes, that's building. So in 2020, he announced the Great Reset, and that's a 10-year plan. And as of right now, we have 7 years to go. And so all his updates are on Sustainable Markets Initiative at LinkedIn website, and he updates weekly how he's progressively confirming or strengthening the covenant of Agenda 2030.
I've had Tim Cohen on my program, and you haven't even read his book. The research that you have done in these over 3 decades, it's your own research, and you've come to the same conclusion as Tim Cohen and others, and you've uncovered some amazing stuff. So now back to that 7-year covenant. So again, what's going to happen at the end of the year then? At the end
of the year, between November 30th and December 12th
of 2023,
you have a global new Green Deal, and that plan is planned to be signed on December the 12th. The confirming of that will be somewhere in that period around December 12th. I'm not going to say it's December 12th. It could be December 13th, and it's all going to happen at relatively the same time.
All right. So if that starts at the end of 2023 and the 7 years, so do you believe that could be the start of the tribulation?
I believe that is more than likely the start of the tribulation. And from that day, we're at 1993 full years since the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. So the 2 days will be fulfilled, 2,000 years will be fulfilled 7 years later in 2030. If you start with the 30 AD start time of the crucifixion.
Oh.
And I've narrowed it down what day it could be, based on the eclipse that happened in Jerusalem. So I can take my phone and set it to being over Jerusalem and find that eclipse in 30 AD, and I found it. There's also one in 33 AD. So for those who believe he was crucified in 33 AD, there's an eclipse that happens early in the spring, and the eclipse in 30 AD happens in the early summer.
Wow. Okay. So then exactly like you said, exactly 2,000 years after.
2,000 years. He's coming back after 2,000 years. And that's in Hosea 5:15 to 6:2, I believe. And also the parable of the Good Samaritan, where he says he's coming back after 2 days' wages. Also, you have his sign given at the World Economic Forum. It basically means he's the Prince of Peace, or he comes in peace, and that's the three ostrich feathers, and each line is 666. It's a symbol right on this coin right here, and you can see the three. I don't know if you can zoom in on it, but you can see the three ostrich feathers on that ring.
Okay, so tell me about that coin.
So this is the 25th anniversary coin right here. This is in the original casing, and this symbol means, it says Ike Dian, so I serve as the Black Prince. That's what it says in heraldry.
Okay, right.
And then it means he comes in peace, and with the World Economic Forum, it means that he is the champion of the UN Sustainable Development Goals.
Okay, right. So that's the same symbol that's on his ring, representing the Black Prince.
The Black Prince.
Stay tuned, because we're going to talk about what he uncovered with Princess Diana. Okay, now let's just talk about more things that you uncovered. Well, you know what? I want to go back to the beginning. Okay, in 1992, what happened that even made you start thinking that Prince Charles at that time could be the Antichrist?
In 1992, I was working as a dishwasher in Scranton, Pennsylvania at the Masonic Temple.
Okay, wait a minute. All right. Why were you even working at the Masonic Temple?
There was a party there I don't know for who, but there was a party there, and I was just a dishwasher. That was my job. And so that back then they didn't have cameras everywhere. And so I had 30 minutes off. And so I decided to go on a walkabout and see what I could find in this Masonic temple. So one of the doors was unlocked, and I went to the room, and I had a view of the temple room that they did their ceremonies at. And I noticed it was a layout, much like the layout of what we were taught in Sunday school, how the temple in Jerusalem was laid out. And I was thinking to myself, man, this is much like very Antichrist. And they had the altar in the middle where they do the sacrifice. And then they had some documents there, and I looked at that, and I said that the Antichrist has to be the top Freemason in the world.
How did you even know that? I mean,
just by the symbols I saw around me. Above my head, as you enter into the Masonic temple, you have the great dragon, the Scottish Rite dragon. And I wanted to know what is behind that dragon. And I found that out years later what that symbolized. But it's the Scottish Rite dragon. It's much like the Prince of Wales dragon.
Okay, so then with the Prince of Wales dragon, it's all connected. Then
it's all connected. The Prince of Wales dragon's more connected to the Order of the Garter. So you have that connection right there.
Now, King Charles wears like a blue sash. Is that what is the Garter? Because I've seen him wear different blue things.
The Order of the Garter is there's a belt on his coat of arms, and that means he's part of the Order of the Garter. With his mother dying, he is now the top Freemason in the world.
Okay. Now, what does Freemasonry believe as far as the top Mason of the world? What would make him be the Antichrist? What's the goal with him?
Prince Charles, now King Charles, is very involved in architecture. So it's presumed that he would love to see the temple rebuilt in Jerusalem, and he would oversee in some fashion that event. In 2020, I believe in 2021, that offer was made to Jerusalem to listen towards Laudato Si. Laudato Si is the Roman Catholic version of the 7-year covenant. So it's 5 years implementation and 2 years of stock take, just like we have today with the United Nations. And that offer to listen comes with an offer for the temple to be rebuilt. And that was on the Laudato Si website.
Okay, and that website again is connected to?
That's connected. So the Laudato Si is a 7-year covenant, and it is a banner movement for King Charles' Sustainable Development Goals and his 7-year covenant. So it comes before the 7-year covenant we're going to see this fall.
Okay, now I want to go back to something that you had said as far as the Great Reset. So many people think that it's Klaus Schwab that announced the Great Reset, but you said that Prince Charles.
King Charles they could have brought in Bill Gates, they could have brought in Klaus Schwab, but they decided on King Charles to initiate the Great Reset, and then gave him his garland and his symbol above a piece above his head at the World Economic Forum in 2020.
We've forgotten sometimes, I think, that we are part of nature. So what we do to the world around us, we are doing totally to ourselves. We can't go on, I think, equivocating on this and just expect us to test the world ultimately to destruction before you can prove that you have destroyed it. We've got to come together as a world on this.
I want you to talk about more signs that you see King Charles being the Antichrist.
In 1969, there was a coin minted, and it has his coat of arms right here. And if you read Revelation 13, it coincides with this coat of arms absolutely perfectly. And then right here you have his crowning ceremony, the investiture.
Okay, so explain how the coat of arms fulfills Bible prophecy.
Below on the coat of arms, it says, Dian, I serve. If you read it in heraldry, I, the Black Prince with the 3 feathers, serve the red dragon. Red dragon symbolizes Satan in Revelation 12. And then it has a head of a lion, body of a leopard, feet of a bear. You have the lion's whelp above, which means which indicates that he is the head of the Church of England. And then you have the little horn with the eyes of the man and the white horse. And that white horse is chained to the dragon, encased in a ring, indicating those two will rule together when he becomes king. The feet of the bear indicates that the Antichrist will beat down its victims. The lion's head instills fear in the people in worship. And the leopard's body indicates that he'll emerge quickly like a leopard. So we have the symbolism all there, how fast this thing's going to move.
So all those symbols are in the scriptures, correct?
All of those. And even in the center, you have the 10 lions. And you have the 11th lion that rises up and strikes down the 3, and you have that symbolism right there in the middle of the crest.
Now, do you think that has to do with like the Roman Empire or ruling?
It would have to do with the Holy Roman Empire. And so if we go back to the encyclopedia and research the Holy Roman Empire, there are seven kings having the same name, and that name is Charles. And it began with Charlemagne. And it will end with King Charles the Third. Potentially, he could be called the King Charles the Eighth of the revived Holy Roman Empire. If that takes place, I don't know if that's going to take place.
But some people will say, yeah, but now that he's just, he's the prince. He's the king now, King Charles. Now that coat of arms belongs to William. What do you say?
That red dragon strictly belongs to King Charles. That red dragon hasn't been transferred over to William, and I don't believe it's going to be, according to what I've researched.
Okay.
So that strictly belongs to King Charles.
Now, if some people say, oh, King Charles can't be the Antichrist because he's supposed to have no regard for women.
That context has to do with one's faith, because it says he leaves the I'm just going to paraphrase that he leaves the faith of his fathers, and that pertaining to a woman. It's in singular, and a woman would be his mother as head of the Anglican Church. So King Charles will leave the faith of his fathers and be a contender for all faiths rather than the faith, the Anglican Church. Now, on the other hand, for those who take the view that he will despise women, you have that in 14 of the 17 goals of the UN General Assembly, where it's very anti-woman, and you see this agenda of Sodom being infiltrated in all the UN development goals.
Oh my goodness! Wait a minute. I've never heard this before. So in the UN goals, you can see a disdain
It's
for women?
infiltrated in all the goals of this agenda, which we see today, of Sodom and Gomorrah. That agenda is built within the UN development goals.
So that's how King Charles is totally connected of not having regard for women. So
for women, plural, and then singular is the faith of his mother.
Okay, now what type of things have they said against women?
Well, that boils down to lowering the population of the earth. They want this agenda to come about in order to slow down the world's population growth. So that's why we see all this banner movement for that today.
Now, I want to go to 2005 of something amazing that you uncovered regarding Princess Diana.
So in 2005, I visited Angels Camp, California, and I went to the ghost town, and they have a Masonic museum, and they had a display case in the front, and there was a book, something to do with Diana. I don't know which book it is to this day, but it was opened up on Diana's thoughts of King Charles and her son William, and that King Charles would have a disastrous reign when he became king, but her son William would rule for 1,000 years. And so immediately I thought, Prince William's the Antichrist. And I was like, I got to go research this because this is blasphemy. And I was really disturbed by it. And I started researching and told my pastor about it. And after 2 weeks, I was like, man, the symbolism just doesn't match. I go, it's his father. It's 100% matched to his father. It's all there. And it was in the coat of arms. I was studying the coat of arms back then. And so that would have been January of 2005.
Now, you don't have any idea of what, I know that you read that in 2005, but you don't know what year that document was written regarding Princess Diana.
Yeah, I don't even know what book I was reading from, because
Right.
it was an open book. So I really have no idea.
But the open book was in a Masonic.
It was at a Masonic museum at the ghost town part of the museum.
Okay. Now it makes me wonder if she knew too much, or I agree with you that I don't believe that William is the Antichrist for so many reasons that you've uncovered, and that King Charles is the Antichrist. But still, for her to even say any of that, I just really wonder if she was taken out because of what she believed regarding Charles as far as having a disastrous.
I think so. I think she was taken out because she knew Prince Charles' plan to take over the world.
So no wonder she said disastrous, because she knew that it would be an evil plan.
Do you really believe that a campaign was being waged against her?
Yes, I did, absolutely. Yeah.
Why?
I was a separated wife of the Prince of Wales. I was a problem, full stop. Never happened before. What do we do with her?
Can't we pack her off to somewhere quietly rather than campaign against her?
She won't go quietly. That's the problem. I'll fight till the end.
All right, I'd like you to go into more reasons why you believe King Charles is the Antichrist.
Probably more recent is the prophecy being fulfilled as far as the bow in January of 2020, because Revelation 6:2 says the bow was given to the rider of the white horse, and also a crown was given to the rider of the white horse. And these two events happen before the Antichrist is able to conquer and go forth conquering. And that to go forth to conquer begins with the confirming of the covenant of Daniel 9:27. So we had the rainbow given to Prince Charles of Wales. The rainbow arc is the meaning of the word bow. And so that rainbow arc at the World Economic Forum was placed above his head with a garland, meaning he was the champion of the UN SDGs. That means United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And each line, there's six, each feather, there's 6 lines. And so immediately when I saw that, I said, there it is, 666. So the number of his image is clearly 666. And not only was the one above his head, but there were 65 other images behind him, all in white, all totaling to the number of 666, for a total of 66 images behind him at the World Economic Forum.
And what year was that again?
It was in January of 2020.
Now, even before 2020, you still believe that King Charles was the Antichrist, because
yes. So there's obviously there's lots of reasons. His name is Nashitz Charles, means veils in Hebrew, and that calculation is 666 in Hebrew. If you use the same format in English of the first 9 letters of the English alphabet, with a value of 1 through 9, the second set of 9 letters, 10 through 90, and the next 4 sets, 100 to 400, and you use that same format. You can calculate in English as well his value of being 666.
okay.
So in
yeah.
both Hebrew and English, you can come up with a value of 666.
Well, it's interesting because, like regarding the climate agenda, I mean, he's like the king of that, which so many people don't realize. They think it was Al Gore, but it seems to me that that's going to be used as the way to control the earth. And after he's coronated, after the coronation of May 6th, it seems like he's going to go full gear into having a plan with the climate agenda. What do you say?
Yes, after May 6th, there's a full plan and actually that begins, to the best of my knowledge, June 14th through the 19th in France with Goal's House, and there'll be some sort of statement during that event that'll state that there's 7 years to go. And then the next event will be at the UN General Assembly, September 12th through the 30th. And then the final event of the year is COP28, and that'll be November 30th through December 12th.
Another thing with King Charles, I mean, I find it very interesting that the past monarchies said defender of the faith, but he's the first one now saying defender of faith.
Defender of faiths, plural.
Faith.
And actually, Canada in the last few days has dropped that title completely off his title. So he is no longer referred to as the defender of the faith in Canada, and that title is dropped completely. So he will not be known as the defender of faith, plural, but it's just totally taken away.
Okay, so they just don't even say anything about defender.
They say nothing. It's totally rejected, and King Charles has said that he will break that covenant immediately after his coronation, May 6th. He feels that he needs to be the defender of all faiths and of the planet. So he's portraying himself as the savior of the world.
Right, and then that goes with Bible prophecy as far as trying to unite the religions and have a one world religion, correct?
Yes, and we have that set up in Abu Dhabi. It's all ready to go. We'll see how that plays out come COP28, how the Abrahamic house plays into this deal.
Right, and the Abrahamic house is where it's uniting the various religions.
Yes, we're uniting the three major religions of the world.
Yeah, I watched their promo, and it was like showing children of different faiths, and they have it just like to make it sound just so beautiful and so sweet. Oh, wow, we're all going to just like get along. But people don't realize that the scriptures talk about a one world religion, and it's not in a good way. It's not in a good light. It's going to be used by the Antichrist for control, and really then to bow down to him.
Yes, and that bowing down to him will be enforced. It's not something that people are going to do willingly. It's forced. They have to do it in order to buy or sell.
Okay, right. According to the book of Revelation, which, okay, for some people watching this, because I have some people watching who have never read the Bible. And just so you know, that was written 2,000 years ago. So Craig is going through some prophecies that were written 2,000 years ago, and even more, like the book of Daniel is even before that. So this is what's amazing. King Charles is fulfilling prophecies about the coming of the Antichrist. Okay, Craig, talk about more things that you see where he fulfills that.
In the coronation we have the stone of scone, which the monarchy believes is a stone of Jacob, and the same stone that King David and Solomon were coronated upon in Jerusalem. I do not believe this is the real stone. But okay, the chair in the past has been labeled as the throne of David. Legends abound concerning the stone of scone. Traditional religious legends abound concerning the stone, and tradition identifies it with the one upon which Jacob rested his head at Bethel. And Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And here we're going to see King Charles be coronated and oil put over his head upon this supposed stone. And this happens at the coronation.
And also, didn't he request like certain kind of oil from Israel?
Yes, he requested the oil from the Mount of Olives.
Okay, so there's the Israel connection too.
We have that Israel connection. Actually, I watched a video of a rabbi in Israel talking about the stone of stone and how it could easily be manipulated towards the Jews to believe that King Charles is their Messiah.
Oh, very interesting. So this rabbi is kind of warning them.
Yes.
Ooh, wow.
So
okay.
the rabbi doesn't believe it necessarily, but if it were possible, it could deceive the Jews.
Wow. So, oh my goodness. Okay. Now, I'd like you to talk about more of the connection with King Charles. Like, okay, he was born in 1948 and Israel became a nation in 1948. And so there's that connection there. And I had an interesting comment from one of my viewers. They were saying they thought it was interesting that Israel becoming a nation in 1948 in May, and 6 months later, King Charles being born. They thought it was almost like John the Baptist, and then 6 months later, Messiah comes. And as if this is just of King Charles being the Antichrist, just trying to mirror that a little bit. But anything else regarding the connection with Israel? What about British? What does British mean?
British means covenant man. And Charles alone means man or manly. And so we have so when the Bible says the number of the Antichrist is 666, and that number belongs to a man, you could actually say 666 belongs to a Charles, and it's biblically accurate because Charles means man or manly.
Ooh, okay. So I find it interesting that it's because of Britain, Israel became a nation because of the Balfour Declaration in 1917.
The Balfour Declaration helped to set up Israel becoming a nation in 1948.
Right, and that was because of Britain. So here we have, again, the connection with Israel and Britain.
The coronation invitation of King Charles has below the green man, which is the god Pan. And this indicates that he comes as a messianic figure to save the world. And one of the sports of the god Pan was to spread panic among men, and we've had that since in the last 50 years to do with the warming of the globe. So having to do with the god Pan, dark, powerful forces, sinister, evil spirits, mysterious figures looming at the end of time. In ancient religion and mythology, the green man, Pan, is the god of the wild. Central to the design of the invitation to the king's coronation is the green man, symbolic of spring and rebirth, aka the Great Reset, to celebrate a new reign. So who is he? And where did he come from? Is he a positive symbol of springtime renewal, or an image of derelication and decay, a dark reminder of man's mortality? The Bible has much to say about this narrative. In Romans 1:25, they exchanged the truth of God for a lie and worshiped and served that which has been created rather than the creator. And so with the green man, it's all about worship of the earth, Gaia worship.
Okay, and then how would people connect the Green Man pan to King Charles? Because of the climate agenda?
It has to do with the climate agenda.
And is there anything in the coronation that has any symbols with that?
It also has to do with May Day and the celebration of the Green Man in Britain. So every spring they celebrate May Day. It's another pagan ritual, and they go down the streets dressed up as the Green Man. It's a god of vegetation and plant life. That's what the god is.
Now, it's interesting because like the Great Reset is supposed to be that you'll own nothing and be happy. And basically you're not going to have any money, green, because they're going to control it all. So to me, it's all connected. They're talking trillions of dollars. They want to take everybody's money and to save the earth and reduce the food production by 2030 by 40%. And what's their reason to reduce the food production?
To save the planet because we're over farming.
Okay. So do you think it's a coincidence that we're having fires all over the place, burning down?
No coincidence. The question is on who's doing it. Is it Satan or is it they have an agenda behind the scenes that we don't know? So we don't know who's starting these things. A lot of it's obviously is man. It's just the breakdown of our society.
Yeah, but this has been going on. How many years do you think this has really started like stepping up?
Really since 2020, we've seen a significant increase and everything beginning to collapse. And then obviously since 1969 or 1970, when Prince Charles did his first speech.
All right, now there's another prophecy talking in the book of Revelation 13 about Charles giving allegiance to the red dragon. If you can explain that.
The red dragon belongs to Wales. So the emblem of Wales, you'll see it on the flag, is the red dragon, and it's with the background of, I believe, is green and white. And that emblem was given to Prince Charles of Wales at his investiture, and it was upon his chair that he sat in front of when his mom gave him the gifts of his investiture. You have the red dragon, you had the umbrella sitting right next to the chair. The red dragon is is encased in a ring, which means he's married to that red dragon, and it began at his investiture in 1969. And that red dragon is released to serve with or alongside of King Charles when he becomes king of the whole world.
Okay, and that fulfills the revelation of giving allegiance to the red dragon.
Yes, it says the red dragon will give him his power and great authority. That is actually on this coin, which I have right here from 1969. You have Prince Charles of Wales, and on the backside, you have the red dragon. It says the red dragon gives the lead in Welsh. Another prophecy fulfilled is in regards to the expectations of the Jews for their long-awaited Messiah. This is found in John 5:43, Luke 21:8, and 1 John 2:18. Just like Jesus, Prince Charles, at the firstborn, was circumcised by a Jewish rabbi, Dr. Jacob Snowman, and Prince Charles can trace his lineage supposedly back to King David of Israel as the one who would fulfill the role as a Messiah. It's interesting to note that under his mother, he has authority to rule over all of Great Britain, but under his father, who was a Greek, he has the authority to rule over all of Europe as king. And Jesus Christ under his mother had the authority to rule over Judah, but under his earthly father Joseph, he had the authority to rule all Israel.
Ah, interesting parallel.
So a
Okay.
very interesting parallel there.
Now, it's like, why would he have had a rabbi circumcise him? And then on the other hand, it seems like King Charles doesn't really like the Jewish people a lot.
Yeah, he many times he'll do a lot of he'll say a lot of comments that are against the state of Israel, but at the same time he portrays himself as their friend, and even wears a kippah on his head.
So do you think that the people of Israel do trust him, or do you think it's divided?
Oh, 100%. Israel trusts him. We saw that in 2020 when he visited Jerusalem, and how much they adored Prince Charles at that time in the videos.
So, as far as them, to be the Messiah, for them to believe the Messiah, that he is the Messiah, he's very well liked by them.
He's very well liked by the religious community of the Jews.
Okay, and that's really what's going to count.
That's what it boils down to, is the religious community.
So does King Charles have a good relationship with Israeli leaders also?
King Charles has a very good relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu. We saw that when Prince Charles went to Israel in 2020, and how Netanyahu adored Prince Charles.
Okay, so it's more, again, the Israel connection.
Also, the president of Israel too. So the two together were with Prince Charles.
Okay, now how about Muslims? Do they trust him?
Yes, and according to one teacher in Islam, that they believe that the biblical Antichrist comes from the land out of the sea, which is Great Britain, or in Bible times was known as Tarshish, and that comes from the royal line. Basically, it boiled down to Prince Charles of Wales.
Okay, so then that's another fulfillment then. So then they would trust him to be.
So the Muslims would trust him to be their Messiah as well.
Okay.
Their Mahdi.
Right. Okay.
The Imam does a better job portraying who the Antichrist is, better than some Christians.
Okay, in what way?
Based on that the land out of the sea in ancient times was known as Tarshish, which was Great Britain.
Okay.
So the Muslims know that the biblical Antichrist comes from Great Britain.
But of course, to them, that wouldn't be the Antichrist. That would be their savior.
That's their savior.
Right, the Mahdi, like you said. Okay.
I have 5 proofs that Britain is spoken of as Tarshish in the Bible. There's actually 7, but I have 5. In the Bible, Tarshish is west of Israel, Jonah chapter 3. In the Bible, Tarshish is a coastal land, Isaiah 23:2-6. In the Bible, Tarshish is a maritime power, Isaiah 23:1-14, and chapter 60, verse 9, and Ezekiel 27, verse 25. In the Bible, Tarshish is known as a merchant power, Isaiah 23, and it's a source of silver, iron, tin, and lead, Ezekiel 27, verse 12.
Now, I remember hearing something that you said about regarding Britain and tin?
Yes, tin originates, most tin in the world originates from Great Britain.
Which is all connected to Tarshish.
Yes. Last year, in the end of July, we had the Birmingham Games, where Prince Charles came with his car that runs supposedly on wine and cheese. So you have he comes as a sustainable prince. And then he opened the games before the tower, what was referred to as the Tower of Babel. And you have these stars that fall from heaven, and the woman that rides the beast, and they all bow down and worship the beast. And that post I did was shared 4,000 times on my Facebook account.
I can understand that. I did a video regarding the connection with that, but I didn't know about the car. So explain that again. He came.
So the car is his favorite car. It supposedly runs on wine and cheese, and that portrays him to be the sustainable prince or sustainable king now. That was also in his Christmas address on Christmas Day. Behind him, all the products on the Christmas tree and surrounding him were all sustainable products. And that portrays him as the sustainable king, or the green king. And if you count on the Babylonian calendar, 1 year from that speech, which was aired just before Christmas on the 24th of December. It comes to December 12th. Yeah, 353 days, and it comes to December 12th, 2023, the last day of COP.
Okay, so it's all connected.
So when he did that speech, I knew exactly what day it was going to go down by just adding the number of 353 days or 354 days when it comes to December 12th.
Okay, now how come you're adding that amount of days and not 360?
On the Babylonian calendar,
Oh, you
there's
said that.
354 days in the calendar, and it goes from new moon to new moon. And then if you add 2,550 days to December 12th, 2023, you come to December 5th, 2030, and that's the 10th day after a new moon, which would be, according to Leviticus 23, the potential day for the Day of Atonement.
Okay, now when you say the Day of Atonement, though, is in December, everyone's going to go, no.
Everybody thinks
It's
everybody
September
thinks
or
that's in September, October. But
How did the calendar change?
the calendar was changed under Hillel, the Nasi, and 300, I believe in 359 AD. And that was enforced. It was an enforcement by the Pope that the Jews had to change the calendar in order to or off with their heads, basically. So Hillel too. It's what's the term? So the Jewish calendar was changed to appease the Pope at that time.
So then are we, let's see, September, October, November. So
the calendar would be off by 210 years and 3 months.
And 3 months.
Yes, and I have a document for that right here. So in Antiquities of the Jews, this was written in 100 AD. It tells us the time of the year that the Feast of Tabernacles was to be honored. And it says, upon the 15th day of the same month, that would be the month number 7, when the season of the year is changing for winter, the law enjoins us to pitch tabernacles in every one of our houses so that we may preserve ourselves from the cold of that time of the year. That's from the Antiquities of the Jews by Flavius Josephus, 37 to 100 AD.
Oh my goodness! So now we're
that is the only living document that we have, other than I believe John 4:35 that tells Jesus says there's 4 months from harvest to the harvest, which would indicate the same time of year. So from wheat harvest to the final harvest of the pomegranates, there's 4 months.
Okay, but this is talking about that the Feast of Tabernacles is in the winter.
Was at the beginning of the winter, with the season of the year begin changing into winter.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so well then, if for those who want to celebrate Passover, then what? We have to celebrate.
We're all celebrating the calendar. The calendar is so far off, and I didn't know this. I always look forward to September. Since 2017, I found out about the Feast of Trumpets, and I looked forward to the Feast of Trumpets every year. And then I read Flavius Josephus's account, and it's like the calendar is off. And I already knew it was off by 210 years by doing the genealogies from Adam to Jesus, and then from the crucifixion to now, we have no less than 5,993 years, and according to some calculations, they're off by maybe 30 years. But when I read that document, I go, this calendar is off. And another issue is the Jews celebrate their feast before the harvest. So in September, they haven't finished the harvest season for the year, and they still have other crops that get harvested until late November or early December. And it ends with the pomegranates. And the temple in Jerusalem was decorated with the pomegranates, and so was the vest of the Levites.
So this is really all connected to where it's the times and seasons have been changed.
Yes, the times and seasons have been changed by the Antichrist spirit, and I believe it will be changed again during the tribulation by the Antichrist.
Now, some people say King Charles can't be the Antichrist because the Antichrist can't be revealed until after the rapture of the church. Well,
in refuting that, in 2 Thessalonians 2, 1 through 3, it says, two things must happen before the gathering of the saints and the day of Christ, which would be the day of the Lord. And those two things is the apostasy or great falling away of the last days church, which, for an example, began in 1948 as well with the World Council of Churches. And then also the revealing or progressive revealing of the Antichrist. So that is in conjunction, present tense, with the apostasy, which means he's revealed in some way before the gathering of the saints and before the day of the Lord begins, which would be before the tribulation begins.
So it's a progressive prophecy.
It's a progressive revealing, and then after that signing of the covenant, we see that he's revealed to the whole world, and that would happen at the fulfillment of Daniel 9:27 when he goes forth to conquer and confirms that covenant with many, which could be could be 70,000 people at COP 28.
So what's going to happen at COP 28 of the 7 year?
COP 28 is a global New Green Deal. And that's for the 7 years. The UN actually counts down to this event. They began at 40 weeks, which is the term of a pregnancy. And as of today of this interview, we're at 33 weeks, and that they update every single week, counting down to this event. So every single Friday, I do an update, and it began at 40 weeks. It's really easy. I just go to the UN website, and there's the countdown, there's the update, and I have the option whether to use that update or anything relative to that countdown.
Okay, and Craig, where can people see your updates?
It's just on my Facebook account. It's on some. I also post on Signs of the End - Rapture Watchers on Facebook and Rapture Watchers in all caps.
Now, really, now show me your document of how much proof that you have of King Charles being the Antichrist. I want to see that document again.
This is half of it. Probably a third of it. This is a third of it. It's right here.
Okay, and that's a third of all of the reasons why.
This is a centimeter thick, and I probably have another 2 centimeters. So it's pretty thick. A book.
It definitely should be a book. Okay, and you were showing me before we started the interview, you were showing me these other books. Show me those again and what the significance of those are.
So I have read another book on Prince Charles being the Antichrist, and it was written by Joan Vion, who will rule the New World Order. It's right here. It's Prince Charles as a sustainable prince. Joan Vion passed away. She was a UN reporter till 2010, but she passed away from cancer I believe in 2010.
So wait a minute, was she a believer in Jesus?
She's a believer. She worked as a UN reporting on Prince Charles and his sustainable development within the United Nations.
Okay, but
so how he works behind the scenes in the United Nations to bring about the New World Order.
Okay, and that's the thing, is that people don't realize all his connection with the UN and how much he's been doing behind the scenes.
He's connected to every major world leader on earth. And then it's trickled down to every city government, nearly every school district in the world as far as the sustainable development.
Can you give me more details about that?
So, in not specific details, but the sustainable development goals are being taught within the local school districts. I have a video of it that's over there. I haven't watched the video yet. It's done by Alex Newman, so he's really good with that.
The education system. They'll tell you education is going to be indispensable for changing people's attitudes. It's going to be critical for promoting sustainable development. To give you some sense of what they're teaching the children now, this is a book about Agenda 21 for children produced by the UN. I have a copy. And this is just one of the abominations in there. You see the Hindu gods. They're very upset because the storks are delivering all these babies. And on the next page, it tells you the earth groans every time it registers another birth.
And how long has this been going on that it's being taught in the schools?
For the last 50 years. It's 50 years. They say it takes 30 to 50 years to change a generation. to get them to sign on to your agenda.
So was that around the same time then prayer was taken out of the schools?
Yes,
So
because
there's
I remember that. And my teacher stood up and said he was still going to pray in school.
Wow, but it's interesting, and it's also connected around the time of Roe v. Wade.
Yes.
Hmm.
The Roe versus Wade was an act to lower the population of the earth, and so it's just one of the many things to slow down the population growth.
Yeah, I remember reading as far as, people trying to talk about the world being overpopulated. And I remember reading a book about that whole thing, and that they said you can actually, to refute that you can actually take all of the world's population and fit them inside of Texas. I mean, we're not overpopulated, but that's what they're trying to convince us.
And then Joan Dion went on to write the United Nations Global Straitjacket. You basically what we see today, you will own nothing and be happy, with the World Economic Forum. And it's this thick of all the documents she has on the UN.
Wow. Okay. And but the thing is, okay, her books were written when?
I believe 2010 on Global Straitjacket.
Right, but at that point, you were 18 years into believing that King Charles was the Antichrist, and you had your own proof.
From 1992, I knew it was the top Mason in the world. In 2005, I knew it would be Prince Charles of Wales.
Okay, and so, but still, then you kept on researching, and then you found her books. So you found
since 2005, I've researched every single day. There's not one day that passes that I'll Google and see if I can find any updates.
Okay, Craig, if you can explain, because I saw one of the reasons why you think King Charles is the Antichrist is something to do with his deceptive nature.
So we know from Bible prophecy the temple will be rebuilt in the first 3.5 years of the tribulation. I personally believe it'll happen after the fulfillment of Ezekiel 38, when Russia, Iran, and Turkey come into the northern part of Israel to destroy it, and God destroys that army. We see that the deceptive nature of the Antichrist is revealed to the Jews by the middle of the tribulation. So the first 3.5 years, the Jews do not know who the Antichrist is. And he arrives in Jerusalem in some form to abolish the sacrifice and oblation around the time of the Passover. December 12th, if you add 6 months to that, would come to the proper time of year that this prophecy is going to be fulfilled, that being 3.5 years from the confirming of the covenant. So it'd be in May or June. I'm not going to give an exact date on that. But he would arrive at the time of the true Passover at the third temple and instigate his satanic-inspired persecution of the Jews for the following 3.5 years. And at this point, the Jews are to leave their housetops and then flee to the mountains. So a lot of people believe that's Petra. I think that's a good possibility. We see the fulfillment of this to date, that King Charles descends from a family with strong ties to Germany's Third Reich. And at the early portion of the war, in World War II, the royal family had strong ties with the Third Reich at that time. And King Charles has shown disdain for the Jewish state of Israel and secretly supports the openly anti-Semitic Hamas and wishes to bring peace between Israel and Iran, as stated in 2020 when he went to Jerusalem. So his number one goal is to be the peacemaker of the great conflict.
Oh my goodness. So when they say peace, peace,
he'll be King Charles. And also the Pope has said that several years ago, may you be a man of peace, when the last time that Pope Francis and Prince Charles of Wales met.
So do you believe that was regarding what you just said, Israel having peace with Iran and other Muslim countries?
Yes, other countries. It could be that, but it can also be that the Agenda 2030 is a plan for peace and security. So the whole thing's designed to bring about peace and security. But we know from Scripture when they say peace and security, sudden destruction falls on them at that very second.
Right. So the 2023 that say that event again, because some people may just even tune in at this point of 2023 of the 7 years, and then how that is connected with the Bible prophecy of when they say peace and safety.
So the plan is between November 30th and December 12th is to bring about a deal for peace and security under the title of the Global New Green Deal, the Build Back Better plan, which was initiated by Prince Charles of Wales, and I believe that was in middle of 2020.
Right. So it wasn't Joe Biden.
It wasn't Joe Biden. That was it originates with Prince Charles of Wales. I have the document for that, where the day he actually said that in a letter. And so the UN agenda at COP20 at the Conference of the Parties in Dubai is an agenda for peace and security.
Okay, and they're using the whole climate agenda as
they're using the whole climate agenda to bring this about, which I've known since 1992. I knew it was a climate agenda that would usher in the Antichrist.
Wow, how did you know back then? What was it? I mean, what was it that really like made you go, "Oh, that's it. That's what they're going to do"?
Actually, in third grade, I remember being taught the climate agenda in third grade. That would be back in the 80s, I believe, in the late 70s or 80s. I don't remember what year that was, but I remember being taught that if we don't take care of our planet, we're gonna have to move to a different planet, and that's the climate agenda right there that we were being taught. Another prophecy we have is the Antichrist receives global authority from all nations, peoples, and tribes of the world. We saw this also at the World Economic Forum in 2020. We've seen it also in Jerusalem in 2020. And we saw it at COP26 in Glasgow, where he opened the event for the Conference of the Parties to begin the global stocktake, which is a 2-year process before the next 7-year covenant, which would be by the way, the first 7-year covenant of Agenda 2030 or the Paris Climate Agreement. And the fulfillment of this is King Charles comes from a family that has been at the top of the Freemasonry world for centuries and has led a plan to build a one world government, a one world economy, and a one world religion based in Jerusalem. And it comes with a rebuilt temple under the authority of the British Crown. So this is their ultimate goal in Freemasonry, is to usher in a temple in Jerusalem. And recently, there's a grotto besides the Temple Mount that is designated to this rebuilding of the temple, where the Masons meet in Jerusalem, right next to the Wailing Wall, below the Wailing Wall.
So then the dome doesn't have to be destroyed in order for this to be built?
No, if it does, I'm going to be jumping up and down for joy if I see that day. but it could be rebuilt in between the two mosques. There's a group of 30 prophecies we can know before the Antichrist is revealed to the whole world. So the Antichrist can be revealed to some before he's revealed to the world. We know that from Scripture in 2 Thessalonians 2:1-3, but he's revealed to the whole world after he confirms the covenant. So the average person today doesn't know the plan of King Charles, or previously known as Prince Charles of Wales, but his plan is revealed in this book right here called Harmony, and it's a new way of looking at our world, which I refer to as my story in English. If you refer to that, and if you know German, that's you can get the connection. Right. So that's his story of how he perceives the world to be by 2030. So December 15th, 2009, Prince Charles of Wales gave a 7-year warning that would usher in the Paris Climate Agreement of 2015.
For the grim reality is that our planet has reached a point of crisis, and we have only 7 years before we lose the levers of control.
That agreement, by the way, was agreed upon on December 12th. And this year, we also have that agreement on a similar agreement and strengthening of that agreement on December 12th, 8 years later to the day. That agreement was enforced on November 4th, 2016, and Prince Charles of Wales delivered an address prior to that event on October 26, 2016.
Okay, and that's the whole agenda that would be.
We see that 7-year thing kind of building. So he's already said there's 7 years to go. I believe after this coronation, he's once again going to say there's 7 years to go.
Right.
I've been waiting for it. That's why I watch every day.
Right. So, yep, establishing that, making the covenant.
Yes, it's a pattern. He follows a pattern. Another thing is the Laudato Si movement is a 7-sector, 7-year agreement that comes as a banner movement before the Paris Climate Agreement.
Now, who was over that?
The overseer of that is Pope Francis, but he acts as a banner movement for Prince Charles of Wales. In fact, Prince Charles of Wales is the author, in part, of the Laudato Si. That became enforced on January 3rd of 2022. That was the first day of the 7-year covenant. And it's a 5-year action plan with 2 years that follow. So they believe after 5 years, the Roman Catholics and all the churches that join them will, it takes 5 years to implement it to change everybody's behavior.
Concerning the climate. And then the last year is thanks to God. Okay, so if that started in 2015, if that started.
Well, that actually began in 2015 as well, but it was enforced on January 3rd of 2022.
And then, but if you add 7 years to that, that would be 2029 instead of.
That goes to 2029. So it's a 7-year agreement that comes prior to the global agreement.
Oh, the global agreement, which will be in December of 2023.
Which is December 12th, 2023, the last day of COP.
Okay.
No agreement is going to be made on the first or second day of a world meeting. They're always going to wait to the last few days to bring an agreement about.
Wow. Okay.
I would say the high watch for an agreement will begin on December 10th and run through the 12th, and it could overrun to the 13th. But on the 12th, we have a new moon, which according to Scripture would be the first day of some month, and I believe that's the first day of the 7th month. The Day of Trumpets would be according to Josephus in December. It would start on December 12th, according to Josephus. There's a sign in the heavens on that day, in the middle of the Milky Way, and it's referred to as the journey of the souls and the opening of the gates of heaven.
Now, who said that? Who had labeled that's what is the journey of the souls and the opening of heaven?
Chuck Missler. I learned that from Chuck Missler.
Okay, yeah. I said I didn't. I was Sid Roth's producer for 23 years, and I remember talking with Chuck Missler and setting up his interviews. He had some very interesting stuff. Okay, so if that would be the case, then do some people believe the rapture?
So actually, if this event happens on the opening of the gates of heaven and the journey of the souls, and that is the rapture, then if you fast forward to 7 years, you should have the sign of Virgo in the heavens on December 5th of 2030. But the only way that is possible is if at the middle point of the tribulation, the clock is sped up and the days are shortened to 16-hour days rather than 24-hour days, and you see the sign of Virgo in the heavens on December 5th of 2030.
Okay, which could then
there's that connection there. It's a mathematical equation to figure that out, but that's when that sign would be seen in the skies.
Okay, when Jesus would then.
That's a second coming.
Second coming. Okay.
Yep.
You have covered so much details regarding King Charles being the Antichrist. Is there any big one that you can think of right now?
Well, a big one, as far as one that would probably be blasphemy, is in the procession on May 6th, ahead of King Charles, they're proceeding with the cross, fragments of the cross of Jesus Christ, what the Roman Catholic Church believes to be is fragments of the cross of Jesus Christ, and King Charles is behind. So as he's going to get crowned, he's going forward with the cross of Jesus Christ. To me, that just doesn't set well. It's very blasphemous, and I think it indicates that truly he is a good bid for being the Antichrist.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Thank you so much, Craig, for all your information. And again, people can go on your Facebook page and tell me, and the other
Rapture Watchers, all caps, or Signs of the End dash Rapture Watchers. That's just a community page. Sometimes I'll have something posted on my personal page that's not on my group or not on my other page, but most of it's all there. If you were to put, for example, open up my page and just scroll down, I went back 2 years and still didn't find articles that I need to repost. But I take those, and then I take the caption at the very top, and then you can search it in my group, and then it's all within the group. It's all highlighted, so it comes in bolder print, so it's easier to read in the bolder print. So all my print offs are done in that bold print.
Well, I'll tell you, I'm really hoping though you come out with a book because you have so much information.
Actually, my plan is to probably open up a Facebook page and have it available for free here in the next couple of months. So everything on King Charles will be there.
Oh my goodness! So it would be all this and a lot more.
Yes, it'd be all this and then maybe the UN updates as well.
Okay. All right. People
just specific to that. So it'd be really easy. And that way it's free to the public. I don't care to make any money on a book. So getting too late in the game.
Okay. Well, people, you're going to have to be like, stay tuned because you're going to keep on getting amazing updates, because that's what amazed me, Craig, when I was like seeing everything that you wrote. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.